Hey, welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. I'm your host, Marina, and today we've got Kristi of Sober Social, a non-alc bottle shop based in Middleton, Wisconsin, here to discuss what it means to bridge the gap between sobriety and society. I am so excited to dive right in and learn so much more, so let's just get right to it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kristi.
Thanks so much for having me. I am so honored to be here. Thank you.
Aw, well, I absolutely love so many things about what you do with your brand. And I just want to start by giving people an introduction to who you are and what you do. So, do you mind sharing with us the founding story of Sober Social?
Sure. Sober Social was born out of something I felt I couldn't find in the marketplace when I was getting sober. And I got sober 5 years ago, and getting sober was not something I wanted to do. It was never on my plan. It was something I really, really needed to do. I had a serious drinking problem. I had to go to rehab, and I was really concerned about what being a sober person meant about me. Like, what does that make me? I knew that I could find support in anonymous support rooms. And then the pandemic hit. And I was like, whoa, this is sort of rocking my world. And I felt like something that was missing was a place for people in sobriety or people who want to drink less but still be social for them to connect with each other and do it publicly. And so I started exploring mocktails and cocktail alternatives, probably when I was 3 years sober. But the only place that I could find them, besides online and starting some crazy expensive subscription to something, was going to a large liquor store like Total Wine. And then you're walking through this gigantic liquor store where they're offering you samples of something I was personally addicted to. And you go all the way to the back of the store, and they have three options. And I didn't like being there. I didn't like shopping there. It made me uncomfortable. It made me nervous. It was a trigger. And I was like, but this is the only place I can find this. This seems wrong. There has to be another place. So I saw an ad for Sandsbar Academy at the end of last year. And I was like, I'm really interested. I think I want to step into this space. I had become a certified recovery coach, and I loved that work, but I also felt like it, I couldn't make the impact I wanted to make as quickly as I wanted to make it. I wanted sobriety to be approachable, less scary, less of a overarching, like, I'm an alcoholic and now I have to stop and I have to make this big claim and then stop forever. That is what I personally had to do, but I wanted sobriety to be a thing that people could be like, oh, interesting. I could have alcohol tonight, or I could have an alcohol alternative if I need to drive, or if I want to feel good tomorrow, or whatever the reason. So I took this 10-week class, and within 3 weeks of doing it, I started looking for retail locations. I have absolutely no background in opening a business. I have been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. I have four kids under 11, and I'm a single parent, and it's summertime, and I don't have childcare, but everything fell into place. I found this really tiny space that is a mile and a half from my home. It was not even really on the market. It, was available turnkey. And the time was like, now or never. So I took a chunk of money and I was like, this is how much I'm willing to put into my business. I put it into my business. I paid the rent for the first year up front. And I was like, okay, that's paid. The rest of it I can put towards inventory. I won a party from Curious Elixirs, and that party was May 15th. It was like this big, 100 different cities were hosting alcohol-free parties that night. So I was like, this is going to be my soft opening. So I had a soft opening, and a couple hundred people showed up.
Ah, that's so awesome.
I I could not believe it. The news station was there. I was like, who are these people? Like, where have they been all my life? Are they sober? why are they here? Like who are these people that are so interested? So I thought that was gonna be like, oh, I might start this business soon. But people were like, we want this now. And so I accidentally started it in May with no business plan. And I've been open since then. Then I had a grand opening July 6th, which was my personal 5 years sober. And again, a couple hundred people came. We had a wonderful time. And the stories that I'm hearing of people just connecting with each other and finding other people and chatting in the store, celebrating each other's sobriety and sharing stories of why they're not drinking. It's just such a feel good experience where it's safe to say, I'm sober or I'm not drinking. And you can say why you're not if you want to celebrate it. If you're somebody who wants recognition or I'm proud of you, come to my store. I'm going to give that to you, right? And you don't have to go and say I'm an alcoholic to get a pat on the back for doing something good for yourself.
Mm. I love that so much, especially because I just saw an article come through that said something about how, there are a lot of people who believe that by destigmatizing addiction, that it somehow can perpetuate more in the sense that in some cases, you see some environments where people are like, oh, well, yeah, we're all addicts around here. And then they just normalize it. But to actually be able to create a space that's like, hey, we're not here to normalize it in the sense that it's okay to just like constantly hurt ourselves, but it's okay to talk about it and
Mhm.
do something about it. This is like the coolest solution I've ever seen. And I think that the way you execute it is so beautiful. I think there's a lot of different ways that, a lot of different ways that people can go about a vision and a dream like this, but the fact that you do so in such an authentic way with your storytelling, the way you show up on social media, the way you show up in the media when they come to your door, I think it's just really cool. And so I would love to ask you a few questions about, what it's like to share your story and recover out loud, especially as
Mhm.
a business owner.
Mhm. Well, I started sharing my story out loud not because I thought that was something good to do. I really did it because when I got sober, I had burned really all of the bridges in my real life, right? The people that were closest to me, I had lied to them during my addiction. And so I went to rehab for 2 months. And when I got home, I'm like, I need somebody to hold me accountable. And I'm not sure who that is because the people that used to be there, I can't count on them right now. And I know why. And I decided that a way that I could do that was to start an Instagram account. So I put out there my name is Kristi. I'm an alcoholic. I'm 89 days sober. And if you see me drinking, like call 911, that's illegal. And people were kind of like, wait, what are you doing? Are you talking about this? And in 2019, it really wasn't something that people were outwardly discussing. I feel like that happened sort of post-pandemic. People started talking about it more, but when I was getting sober, there were not these sober accounts like there are today, at least not nearly as many. So I started sharing my story from a place of need, sort of. I started opening up in meetings, and I felt like I had so much more to say. And so I started sharing out loud in this way. And what I realized was it offered people an inside look to what my addiction looked like, which made a lot of people feel less alone. And they didn't all say it on my Instagram account, but they sent me messages. And what happened was I made all these connections and realized this is not my own personal struggle. Like, this is a universal human struggle. This is a human condition. Addiction is, right? And I'm not the only one going through it, and I'm not the only mom. Um, And so I think, one of the things that I have always clung to is I came up with this saying that is keep no secrets, carry no shame. And I don't know when it sort of like hit me, but that became my recovery motto. Because every time I felt like I told a shameful story about my addiction, that secrecy and that guilt and that shame that I had about it was slightly released, right? Like I had shared it with somebody, I had let it out into the world, and it hadn't killed me. It taking it out from being a secret that only I knew, that I thought I would take to my grave, because who says that they drink and drive with their kids, right? I thought I was going to take that to my grave, and saying it in a meeting helped me. And then I realized recovering out loud helps everyone. It helps everyone. I mean, I don't think everyone can do it, nor everyone wants to, but there are people that want to, and I'm one of them. It makes me feel validated in my choices to continue saying, I'm living a sober life and here's why. I am validating it to myself. And what I've realized is that I think it inspires other people. That was not my intent, right? I wanted to make an impact and I didn't know how I was going to do that. But I think by starting from such a vulnerable, very messy place at 90 days sober, going through a divorce with 4 children, and then the pandemic hitting, and still telling my story from that place of hurt and in the middle, I think people started trusting what I was saying, right? And now to be 5 years sober and out of it, I think people, they can see there's a light at the end of the tunnel if they really want it. Um, I've always been a writer. I've always kept a journal since 5th grade. It's just my thing. And at some point, I realized I liked sharing my writing. And I felt like writing was a powerful tool for me to change the way that I viewed myself, too. Right? Like, I want to rewrite the script on who Kristi is and what she stands for, because what I was 10 years ago is not the same person I am today.
Mm. I love that. And I love that that phrase that you said, keep no secrets, carry no shame. You have that up in your shop, right? Like in
I
neon, right?
do.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
I have it tattooed on my rib cage.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's sweet because now, you know, of course, in the Instagram era, everybody wants to take cool pictures of the cool places they go to, and it becomes a token that, you know, I feel like every time I look through my gallery, right? And I think, what was I feeling when I was taking certain pictures? Some of them, they're not pretty pictures, but hey, I was having a good time with my dog, or I was having a good time with my husband, or wow, that we made it through that crazy storm, even though it looks stupid on this picture, but like it's there. So to be able to carry that on, it's something that really hits deep. One thing I noticed when I was going through your socials, you actually take pictures first off of people who are in your shop, which is cool. But I noticed that you also celebrate other people's sobriety. So I'm curious, what is it like for you when you're in your shop and you're doing your thing? Someone comes in, you're like, oh, hello, welcome in. What happens next for people to open up to you?
That has been honestly the most fulfilling part. I'm gonna get emotional. Like,
Mm, it is the best part. I already have goosebumps.
I did not, I didn't expect people to be so open, um, and willing and wanting to share. But to your point, recovering out loud, they feel comfortable because I have, and they've read my stuff And a lot of them know my bottom. And that makes them sharing with me not so scary. But I've also been, it's like, hi, welcome in. How can I help you? It's like people know that I'm sober because I talk about it. And they will say, first thing, a guy came in 2 days ago, I'm 21 days sober.
Mm.
I was like, oh my gosh, congratulations. That's so amazing. He's like, yep, took me 65 years to get here, but here I am. And I was like, you're right on time. Today's a great day. Like, let's find you something. Do you want to use the board? Like, do you want to take a picture? Do you want to remember today? Like, it's so good. And then there's other times where it's like somebody will come in. I'll be like, hi, can I help you find something? Oh, I'm looking for this, that, or the other thing. And we'll get to talking. And inevitably, we stop talking about the drinks and the brands and what they're talking about. And we always end up talking about alcohol, drinking culture, why they're not, who they're supporting, how it's affected their life. It's like, um, I want my husband to stop drinking, so I'm buying non-alcoholic stuff, and we're just replacing our bar with that for right now, and we're just going to try that for a little bit. And I'm like, that's so amazing, wonderful. Like, what are your favorite things? Let me help you. And then she's like, well, actually, and I have some friends that this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, actually, my friend is 3 years sober, and she's got to come here, and her anniversary is next week. And I saw you have a thing, and it's like, people see that this is a place where they can come and support people that they know and love that have done this hard thing called addiction and getting sober, that they can come really celebrate them. Or you're pregnant, or you're on medicine, or don't like hangovers, whatever the reason. Um, but I think, I try to be very approachable. I'm, I, what I'm thinking and feeling based on my face. I can't hide anything. If I'm sad, I'm crying. And if I'm happy, I'm laughing. Like there's just like, um, and I think I have just like a real passion for living alcohol free and enabling people to believe that they can have a full fun life in sobriety. And I think a lot of people come looking for that validation, right? That like this can be fun, right, this is we can do stuff. And then it's like, oh, I just went to my first sober concert, or I'm going to take my beer this weekend and go camping for the first time sober, and I'm going to sit around the campfire. And it's like, I feel like I'm empowered to do these things and I don't have to be left out anymore. And I'm like, this is so exciting because all I want to do is bridge that gap. I don't want sober people to be on the outside of socializing because they're sober. That's silly. We're wonderful people. We just don't drink alcohol anymore. That's it.
That's it. It's not too big of a difference other than the very fundamental things that may follow from that. And, you know, all of this being said, I I remember back in the day when I was behind the bar all the time as a cop attender. I also got to experience a lot of these beautiful stories and people opening up and because they naturally be like, okay, well, how does this make you feel? And you always start with something that's like, just pretty baseline, like, oh, this feels good. In a lot of contexts, according to the FDA, we aren't allowed to, prescribe things or whatever. So naturally, the only way that we can authentically and legally talk about these things is by saying, in my experience. So it like naturally opens the door, which is beautiful. That being said, sometimes especially as a business owner, you're dealing with a lot of other stresses and a lot of other things that are going on. And then you learn about these other things you didn't even know you needed to know about. And like there's all these things happening. So, when there's all these things happening, sometimes it's really hard to connect with people because, your cup is overfilled or it's just empty altogether. So, all that being said, what do boundaries look like for you in this space in order to like maintain that sanity?
Oh my gosh. I would say I'm still working on them. Again, that is something I did not consider. What do my boundaries need to be? Does my store really need to close when I say it's closing? I mean, very simple thing, but there's people here, but then they'll chit chat for 45 minutes and I was supposed to let my babysitter go. I think I went into it kind of like just full steam ahead, like I do with everything, like a billion miles a minute, and just thought I would never burn out. And I can't remember when it was, right after the opening, the soft opening party. I had a total meltdown, just a total meltdown. And I got on Instagram, started bawling, and I was like, I have to take a mental health day and close the store. And I did. I did not think about what we're talking about. What are my boundaries? I had not considered them. I hadn't built in time to eat, to sleep, to connect with my children, to, all these things. Boundaries are hard. It's hard because I'm the only one there. And so I need to be running the register and restocking and helping people and listening to stories and answering the phone and talking to distributors and saying yes or no to events and placing orders. So I a lot of times feel pulled in about 20 directions. I've since said, distributors, I need to work with you via email. I can't
Hmm.
have 8 distributors coming in on a Thursday to show me their product lineup and compare prices while I have 10 people in the store. I also have realized I need to have an exit from conversations, which I haven't totally figured out yet. But sometimes there are people there that really, I, they're wonderful people and I'm happy to listen to them and they really need a therapist. And I can't listen for 45 minutes. Even if it looks like nobody's in my store, there are 800 million things I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
So it's like, it looks like, oh, shoot, she's doing nothing. And it's like, but I should be doing 87 things right now. So, I'm still, I'm still working on it. And it's hard for me, initially everyone was like, I want to do this event. Could you do this event? And I was like, absolutely. Yes, I'm so interested. Definitely want to do that. The reality is right now I can run my store. That's my capacity at this very moment because I don't have anyone to help me run the store. And until I do, I don't know how to do events on top of that. They'll come, people want them, the demand is there. And I'm still just one person. So one of my boundaries is being like, I would love to do that in 3 months. I would love to talk to you. But it was feeling really overwhelming and making me feel bad that I couldn't say yes to people. I want to collaborate with everyone in the community and offer events and do these cool things. I'm just kind of up to here with like just managing brand new everything, right? I didn't know what I needed to know until I was there. And now the need to know list is very long.
Man, I feel you there. I feel like boundaries are the constant challenge of life, right? Because right when you figured out one set, something else comes up, or you've up leveled in your business and you have a new idea and a new venture with new boundaries to figure out. And I think that that's a beautiful piece of wisdom to take from this, where it's like we can always be evaluating ourselves. Even myself, even as someone who coaches people through boundaries and figuring out how to not burn out, how to build systems that don't cause those things. I myself will be up, like I'll be like, oh, wow, it's the middle of the night. I have to go to the bathroom real quick. And then I'm like about to go to sleep, lay my head on my pillow. Oh, look at those 12 ideas I just had. Whee! And so I have to have even a boundary with myself where I'm like, okay, Marina, you're not allowed to talk about that right now. You can count sheep. You can count to 25 times in a row. I literally have a list of 3 things I'm allowed to think about at 3 a.m. That's it.
Mhm.
So
Right.
it's, right when I master that one,
Hmm.
then something starts to happen at 9 p.m. because
Yep.
there's always going to be it there's always going to be something that boils to the surface. And the cool part about those pain points that boil to the surface is they always like inspire us to the next level or help us see the vision to where we need to go. And that being said, when we take a look at your branding, Sober Social, being this bridge to or yeah, being this bridge between sobriety and society, and even the fonts you've chosen, the beautiful design you've done inside of your shop, it's clear to me that you've elevated this experience into something that is it shows that there is this level of sophistication to it. And what I mean by that is like I'm not trying to be like, oh, like other brands that still rock the tiki, that they aren't doing cool things. Because I love a good tiki kava bar, don't get me wrong. But here it's this elevated conversation about like, hey, like we're serious about how many options we have, how much love we want to put in the space. So all of that being said, I'm really curious, when you were doing the entire design process from your font choice to your logo to the wallpaper that you put up inside the shop, what was going through your mind as you were designing this space for people to be in, but also for yourself to be in so that it remained inspiring?
I mean, I just chose things that made me happy. As you can see, I love color. I think, one of the things I sort of say about sobriety is when I got sober, I started living in Technicolor. I had been living sort of in this like shades of gray of like managing my addiction and like this unhealthy relationship and like my depression and anxiety. Like it was a management of my life before. And now I'm actually present, living in my life. And so I love color. I love being bold. There's nothing shy about me at all. And I don't think there should be anything shy about being sober. I think people should be proud that they have made this choice today or forever, whichever thing. Wonderful. Um, I know that like what's in is beige and neutrals, and I'm not in. I'm not trying to be in. I'm trying to be this new thing. I love the shock value that I get from people when they walk in and they're like, oh my God, look at that wallpaper. Is that a chandelier? Oh my gosh, this is so pretty. It's so fun. It makes people want to stay. It makes people want to share it with their friends. They want to take pictures by the lady lamp with her light up handbag. Where did you get that? Home Goods, obviously, is where I get everything. Um, but it's fun. I want sobriety to be fun. I wouldn't still be sober if it wasn't paying off, if it wasn't fulfilling, and if I wasn't having fun. Like I'm an Enneagram 7. I'm here for it, right? Like I just want to have all the friends and all the parties and be happy all the time. So it's like, I love that there's this unexpected element to bottle shop, right? And then it's so much more than you anticipated with, hot pink tiger wallpaper and teal, velvet couch and gold chandeliers. It's fun to be around and it's very girly and women love it. And, the kids think it's fun to find the tigers in the wallpaper. So everyone's really very happy.
Everyone's having a great time. I
Honestly,
love, yeah, it's
it's really a
everywhere.
whole vibe. It's a whole vibe in the shop. Like it's really hard to be sad in there. It's a happy place.
Hmm. That's home. That's what you want it to be. See, that's the thing about business design where it's like sometimes people get so in their heads about market trends and what needs to happen because someone else did something. But in reality, like you were born on this earth and you were given some sort of like you have this passion in your heart, which in my opinion, I believe that if you have the vision and you have the dream, that means you have everything you need inside of you to figure it out. You just have to like decode some stuff to get there.
Mhm.
But, another aspect of your business design that I really appreciate and have so much respect for is, if you go to your Instagram page, it has a pinned post at the top that says what your hours are. And you're not open every day. In fact, you're closed 3 days of the week, and they are not all together.
Sporadic.
Like they're sporadic. And I think that that's super cool because, again, you're already a boutique bottle shop inherently by being NA at this point, but also just because of your vibrant personality and that like sophistication behind the branding that you've chosen. But all of that being said, I'm sure that there were moments in time where you thought about being open all the time and hiring people early. So when you decided to, design your business in a way that was good for your life, like I want to learn more about, what was going on when you were making that decision and, to choose which days you wanted to be open versus not.
Sure. Um, One of the biggest takeaways I got from the Sandsbar Academy with Chris Marshall was that your business will not succeed unless you take care of yourself, and that you should build your business around your life.
Mm-hmm.
I am a single mom. I um could not just be like, oh, do you know what would be great for my business is if I was open 5 days a week and had 10 employees, I would never see my children. Um, it's really important for me to have my kids be a part of this process, and they have been, and that's been amazing. Um, I opened the store basically as a dream of mine. And I didn't know if anyone would come. And so when I very first opened, I didn't even know if anyone would care that I was open. But what I realized is people don't have other options and they don't get this kind of experience. They certainly don't get this kind of experience that you get at Sober Social anywhere else. And only I can do that right now. Only I can do that because I built it. And I don't even know how to train anybody because I wouldn't know what to tell them to. I don't have an opening list or a closing list or a how to order list or when to order. You know what I mean? I'm just doing it all. And so one of the things I mean, I'm open when I'm open because that's when I can be. Tuesdays, I don't have my kids, so I'm open on Tuesdays. I'm not open on Mondays because nobody else in downtown Middleton is, and it's not a huge retail day. Um, and so that doesn't make sense. Wednesdays, I have my kids, and that's my one day a week in the summer that I get to hang out with them. So I'm like, I need to have that for my healthy relationship with them. I'm not ready to go from being a full-time stay-at-home mom to a full-time working mom with no in between. This is our in between, right? Like now they get a babysitter on Thursday and I work Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then every other weekend, they're with me at the store on Saturdays because that's what's happening right now. Um, it, I definitely have some customers that are frustrated that I'm not open regular hours. Um, and to that, I say I am doing the very best I can, and I am open as much as I can be. And I have been consistent with my hours. And whenever I can offer more hours, I certainly will, but I don't see it happening right now.
Love that.
Like,
The best.
you know, I'm you know, I'm doing the best I can and I don't want to burn out. I don't want to burn out. The number one reason shops like this don't make it is people start with passion and they burn out. They go too hard and too fast and too big and say yes to all the things. And as much as I want to grow and serve the demand and all the things, I also know that I need to grow at my own pace. I still need to get in yoga once a week. I didn't yoga for 3 weeks and I felt mentally crazy, right? There are things I need to do for myself that I need to build back into my schedule before I can take on another day or an employee or regular events. They will happen because I think the demand is going to be there regardless. People are driving, even though I'm only open those 4 weird days, people are coming. That's when they come then. Then I have people waiting outside my door at noon on Saturday for me to open. That is a great problem to have.
Wonderful problem. Yeah, this is a great example of building a business with yourself in mind so that you can actually show up and serve people. There's nothing more frustrating than having a beautiful dream, having a good idea, and then burning out on it. In my experience and the experience of my clients, and just like I think just general life of people, 6 months is always the sweet spot of where, let's say you just took a cool class and you're like, oh, I'm jazzed. I just took that class, so I know all the things. And then you're like, oh, I got the funding, or I got the store, or I got some inventory, whatever the physical things start to come in, and you're like, oh, this is real. Then you start to see, you're like, oh, I'm making my first sales, and you're like, wee, all these fun things are happening. But then there hits a certain point where it stops being a sprint and it starts to become the marathon. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's the hardest part. It's
100%.
never, a lot of people sometimes they'll say, "Oh, the hardest part is starting," which I could agree to a certain extent, but sticking, I mean, at least if my experience, I've found that I've started a lot of things in life. That
I'm
doesn't
a
mean I've finished
professional
all of them,
quitter. I'm a professional quitter. Like I quit everything. I'm like, ooh, that got hard. I'm over it.
right? Yeah, so it's like you need to have a North Star, a thing about what you're doing that is obviously very, that passion burns brightly, but how do you keep it in check and ensure that it doesn't fall to the wayside? And you just other things seem better to do. So, oh, I'm just tired. I'm so tired. So
Yeah.
that being said, when we're talking about boundaries specifically,
Mhm.
um, you know, my mind is going a couple different directions right now because to be completely honest, like burnout
Mhm.
was actually my North Star. So like yes, I love the non-alc space. Yes, I love serving people in a variety of different ways, but for me, honestly, like starting our business, we were recovering from chronic burnout from not only just one job, but many jobs, just society, the pace of hustle culture caused, especially me, to get to the point where I had vertigo to where I couldn't drive. Like my husband had to drive me places, and I had a friend visiting in town while that was happening, and I tried to explain it to her, but she still was just like, oh, you need a man to drive you around and do all these things. And I'm like, whoa, like I'm actively so burnt out in life and I am in a very high powered position and I can't give myself to, like, I was literally losing friends left and right. I was losing, like, I was so addicted to the job
Mhm.
that it turned into this thing where I'm like, man, I know I can help people and I'm capable, but I have a limit, but I feel bad about that limit because I like people. But I learned that I can only be around people for 20 hours a week outside of my husband. But 20 hours is all I've got. That's my battery. So like literally I had to program into all of my calendars because I send these things out, TidyCal, same as Calendly, where if you want to book an app, book a meeting with someone, you just send a link. It's so great. You don't need a secretary, right? Well, if you happen to send that link to like 20 different people, you might accidentally have a very difficult work week. So I had to set up all of these boundaries to make sure that like my current clients, everybody's taken care of all at the same time because I have literally watched people who had beautiful dreams get so burnt out that they started treating the very people they wanted to serve like poo-poo
Right.
because they just
Yeah.
fell and I've been in a situation where I've worked for people like this who the community just absolutely can't stand them, but like, you believe in the vision so much that you keep working so hard. And point of this whole story is like, it's really easy for anybody to turn down the villainous path. It's very easy for anybody to turn into someone they don't want to be simply because of how they're dealing with stress. That's what got most people into an addictive phase of any kind in the first place, which is why we're trying the whole non-alc thing, right? So
Yeah.
to me, it's like my passion stems from, yes, like we're in a sober space and this is incredibly important to me, but like of all spaces, if we're going to burn out here, like where are we going to learn our lesson? We already cut out the other things. So like we have to learn it now or never.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool to sit here and be able to like have these conversations and learn more about, what are the things that every business kind of deals with these boundary issues. One other thing I'd love to mention here is the technology boundary. So there's the shiny bells and whistles of everything. There's all these social media things, and then you got to have a newsletter and you got to well, I'm podcasting right now, so I enjoy this. This doesn't make me tired, but it could make someone else super tired if they were doing that. So,
Mm-hmm.
point of this is, there's a lot of things you could be doing when it comes to
Oh
the
my gosh.
digital space.
Oh my
Why? Yeah, so why do you choose what you currently choose, and why do you say nope to everything else?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know. Um I do what feels good. I follow the universe's nudges. I really
Mm.
trust like what is presented to me in a time of clarity. That's how I ended up in your class, right? It was like, oh my God, there's this open window of on my calendar at the exact time. It's like that doesn't happen, right? Like that doesn't happen as a single mom, solo business owner. That doesn't happen until it does, right? And then it's like this must be somewhere I'm supposed to be. Um, I think I try and just be really aware of keeping my cup full, right? The boundaries thing. Um, I was just thinking, I hired a business coach a handful of weeks ago because I felt like I need somebody just to be there. And my first meeting with her, I thought was I was going to tell her all my ideas, right? For all the things that we talk about doing. Why do I do what I do and don't do what I don't do? And I thought I was going to tell her the 87,000 ideas that I have for all the events that I'm going to do and all the ways that I'm going to make the non-alc space wonderful and everyone's going to love it. It's going to be so much fun, right? I can't wait to do it. And instead of telling her all those ideas, I started hysterically crying.
Mm.
And what it turns out is like I haven't recharged my battery. And my session with her turned into being like being me saying, I think I need to take a day off. I think I need to take a day to rest. And so this coming weekend, I booked a cabin in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. And on Saturday night, after I close my store, I am going away for Saturday night and Sunday night, and I'm turning off my phone and I'm doing just that. Right. And then we're going to have another meeting, and then I'm going to tell her my ideas. Because right now, the answer is I can't do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I can only do what I can do. People ask me all the time, so do you have a newsletter? No, but that would be a great idea. Here's my piece of paper, and you can put your email on it for when I start it. It's a ghetto like piece of paper, like it's nothing fancy. It's not printed off. I've spilled coffee on it. This is like a startup here. Like I don't have somebody to write my newsletter. I don't have somebody to format it. I'm not a computer person. This is not my forte. My forte is people, design, computers, and technology. That's not it. Um, so I know that I'm trying to stay in my lane of genius, and my lane of genius is connecting with people. I'm really good at that. And I know that my next things that I want to do are going to involve getting other people involved in this business too. I don't have to do this alone. It feels like it right now because I don't know who to ask or what to ask them for, right? Because I'm unclear. but I know I don't have to do this alone. And once I figure out who else gets to be on that team with me, then we can think bigger picture. But I want to do that with more than one set of eyeballs, right?
Mm.
I want I want this to be a representation of our community, not just my ideas. It was born out of my idea. It feels like me. I'm so happy. It's beautiful and it's fun. And I want to offer the things that are most important to the community. And that might mean hiring some help and getting more ideas and deciding what's most important. And it might not be the thing that I think.
Mm. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love the clarity here on what is currently available and what's available next or potentially in the future in general. I think that's the hardest part, uh, shiny object syndrome in general, where I know that that happens to me anytime, we take a look at our books because we started this consultation business specifically in January. And any month where the focus and the clarity was there, oh my gosh, you can see it in the numbers. Any month where I had a potential opportunity in some other direction that I hadn't initially intended, and I take a look at that direction and I'm like, what's that? Well, I am new in to this consulting uh part of the industry. Like I'm still introducing myself to some people, so there are some opportunities that, seem important to go towards. Then as time goes on, I'm like, I knew way more at the start. This actually confused me. This actually
Mhm.
didn't add any value to my experience. It turns out I am actually a better coach without that extra information or that extra shiny toy. And anytime I get distracted by anything, I can see it. And so I feel like one of the coolest parts about being an entrepreneur is, and scariest for sure at first, I guess, but eventually it just becomes thrilling, where you're like, what other part of my personality can we open up today and dissect like the root cause of why I do that? Because to be honest with you, especially as a coach, especially as a consultant, like people ask me random questions all the time that I can never be prepared for. Like they just
Sure.
one time I had a 45-minute lesson on refrigeration that I had no idea I was going to give. But then other times I've had lessons where people are like asking me, and what really prompted this episode was how do you authentically present yourself as a business owner, but also keep some boundaries so that you don't keep,
Mm.
go insane.
Mhm.
But also how do you do so in a way where, uh, you know, it's that balance between what's professional and what's personal, right? Like where is that line? And, especially from this conversation, I feel like what's really important to take away is while yes, there are a lot of other people out there and a lot of your clients may not represent you or your story, that doesn't mean that you can't help someone and or that you can't be inspired by someone who comes from a completely different part of life or a completely different part of the marketplace that maybe you didn't anticipate before.
Mhm.
It's wild. So I only have two questions for you left as time is taken away here, unfortunately, even though I wish we could talk forever.
I know.
My first question for you is what if you, okay, do not like judge yourself in any way, shape, or form. But when you think about like the most surprising customer you've ever had, where you're like, wow, I really didn't expect that. Like, what does that story look like for you? I can give an example too, because I had a
Yeah,
crazy one time. Okay.
tell me.
So working at a kava bar, a lot of times you get, all the wellness people tend to like already know what kava is, so they come in and they order like they know. Sometimes you get people like in fraternities or sororities where you're like, I know you're going out and drinking. Like you accidentally ended up here, but you're just trying to go somewhere else. So one time we had a group of frat boys come in and there was some sorority girls with them too. And the girls kind of knew a little bit more because, girls they go to yoga, so like they'd heard of it a little bit, but they knew like, oh, I'm drinking alcohol, so this isn't for me. But the guys were dragging them in because they heard the noise and the music and the lights and all the things. So, they were genuinely like listening to our pitch on what it was and everything. And once I realized, like, because the girls were like, but we really want to go drink. I was like, I'm gonna stop you right now. I'm gonna give you these cards. Come back in the morning when you're inevitably nursing your hangover, and I'll help you figure that out. So they actually came back in and they asked so many questions, and they were like, it was like they were adopting this new lifestyle. Like it was the coolest thing ever because at the time that was the first time that had ever happened to me. Nowadays I know of course a lot of different people come in, but that really stuck with me because it really made me stop judging people in the marketplace from a like group standpoint, and it came
Or,
more down to what emotional journey are they on, because that was the easier indicator of what drink they needed.
hmm Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I don't know who the most, it's so crazy. Like I had somebody come in who was a liver doctor,
Hmm.
and she was like, I would actually love for you to make up a little flyer. And I would love to tell my customers about this because all of them need liver transplants and none of them are allowed to drink again. And that's a really
Mm.
big problem for a lot of them. I had an OBGYN come in and say the same thing. My pregnant customers, they feel left out in the summer, right? But I mean, one of the things that I love is one of my friends who works nearby downtown. She's a couple years sober and is helping her dad drink less. And she came in for Father's Day and she's like, he loves a good old fashioned. I'm like, perfect. We can make him up a little thing. So we make him up a little thing and she gives it to him. And just yesterday, she sent me a text message and it's her dad saying to her how much he loves it and what a great idea it is to drink a little
Aw.
bit less and that he's probably going to need to come get some more from this store. And
Mm.
so it's not even the customer, it's the customer that takes it to the person. And then the story that gets back to me, and I get to be a tiny bit of that story. And then when that guy comes in, he will tell me who he is, and I will cry and give him a hug because that's
Mm.
what we do. But it's stories like that that it just makes us all feel so connected. It's what you said, it's an emotional thing. It's all about the emotions.
It's true. It's true because at the end of the day, anybody can go make a drink at home by themselves, even a zero proof one. They can Google all the things, they can learn it all for free and buy it on Amazon sometimes, but
Hmm
they come to you for the connection and the not only connection to what's in this drink, but who's in the community, who's coming here, and what are all like the little legs, all the little arms and legs that come from this, right? Like you mentioned, some people need therapy. Probably good to have some resources available. I know that I always had to have all of the potential intake programs for anybody who was suffering from addiction, who had questions, especially being behind the bar. I didn't have time to help people in that capacity. So I would just, hey, here's the link. Hey, here's where you should go. Hey, this is a person in the community. Or hey, I know that regular who's sitting on that part of the bar, they can tell you all about it because they were actually in that program. Like, go and have that conversation to be able to
Yes.
connecting people.
Yes. And
Mm.
like one of the things I have in my store, which is just random, but books, sober books, were a huge part of recovery for me. So all of my quit lit I have in my store and I just let people take it and they can bring it back when they're done with it. And I just assume that they will, right? Like I have my name in the front of it and I have all my personal notes about, I like just ignore my notes in the corner, but I just want people, if they're curious, to have access, right? If you're curious, I want you to explore. And I already own these things and you can borrow them. But yeah, like, somebody was like, oh, I'm new to town. I'm looking for a meeting. And I'm like, download this app, go to this website. It's connection to me, but I'm the connector to the community, right? Like I could be step one, and that's so good as long as I have other people to connect them to.
Yeah, it's perfect. Mm. Christy, I wish I could talk to you all day, but I have one very final question for you. And it is this. Is there something super exciting coming up or something about your shop you want to plug, whether that is simply your Instagram handles or if there is another announcement you want to tell us about?
Um, I don't have any crazy announcements. I am doing a book launch at my store on September 24th. It's
Ooh.
called, I think it's called I Am Not My Trauma by Carolyn. I'm not even gonna try her last name. But anyway, it's gonna be at my store on September 24th. And so I've never had a book launch before, and so that seems pretty cool.
Ooh.
Um, and yeah, no, everybody should come visit. I'm at Sober Social Shop on Instagram, my personal Instagram at Mocktail Mommy. What the difference is, hard to say. Still working on the boundaries right over here. So if you're wondering why I'm posting one place, I couldn't tell you. I haven't figured it out yet. There's no social media manager, but there will be someday.
I feel that. That's how I feel right now with our socials. I'm like, I don't know. Here's all the things, though. Here you go.
Here you go. It's just me.
Welcome.
Oh, yes.
Aw. Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you so, so much for being here today, Christy, and sharing all of your stories and your knowledge with us.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it so much.
Yay. Anyone listening who wants to learn more, follow, head over to the shop. You can go ahead and look at the description right now. You'll be able to see the links to all the things. If you have any questions, comments, anything else you want to add to this episode, go ahead and send an email to hello@marinamars.com, and we will make sure that we get that question answered or that concern taken care of. In the meantime, if you think of anything else, just let us know.